Welcome back to our summary of The Wealth of Nations. We are looking at Chapter 4 of Book 2 of Stock Lent at Interest. Here, Adam Smith explains the economics of lending money, which is what he means by stock. He starts by pointing out that stock for lending is a form of capital, and that the person who borrows it has to pay rent for the use of it. The borrower can use this money either as capital, for example by paying workers, and from this make enough return on it to be able to pay back the loan and the interest while still making a profit. Or the loan can be used for consumption. That's bad for society because it reduces the amount of money available to be lent out to people who would create more wealth with it by using it for investment, and it's also bad for the person who borrows it. The man who borrows in order to spend will soon be ruined. Smith says that both kinds of borrowing exist, borrowing for capital and borrowing for consumption, but that almost all stock borrowed is done so for capital, to gain a profit. I'm not so sure if that's still the case. Smith was writing before credit cards and most people buying homes with mortgages. Smith then criticizes the prevailing economic model of the time, mercantilism. In the 18th century, it was thought that there was a limit to how much wealth was available, so other countries getting rich limited how wealthy your own country could get. Therefore, countries tried to amass as much gold and silver as they could and limited imports with tariff and protectionism while increasing their own exports. Smith says that the amount of capital available for lending is not based on the amount of money and bullion in the nation, but on the overall economic productivity of all the forms of capital available. He also dismisses the idea held at the time that the discovery of new sources of gold and silver in the Americas had caused a drop in interest rates. Having more gold and silver in circulation had instead made those metals cheaper without affecting the overall rate of interest. Smith explains the drop in interest rates like this. As the share of a nation's wealth that is used to replace capital increases, the amount of stock available to be lent at interest increases also. So market forces drive down the interest rate. At the same time, it becomes more difficult to find a way to make profit with capital, as competition increases and wages of labour increase. Since capital now makes less return, the return available to be paid as interest diminishes too. Smith turns to countries now that ban lending money for interest, usury. For Smith, banning this is a mistake. Since everywhere people can use money, they should everywhere be able to pay to do so. In countries where people cannot legally borrow money, they will turn instead to the black market and loan sharks, who charge very high interest rates. The loan sharks lend out money at risk to themselves, as it is a crime, and they pass on the cost of that risk to the borrower. Smith also thinks that there should be limits on the level of interest lenders can charge. His concern is not with protecting people from predatory loans, however. He is worried about the economy. If interest rates are too high, careful, prudent people would not borrow the money, as they would not expect a return on it high enough to make it possible to pay back the loan, the interest, and still make a profit. Instead, borrowing would be dominated by reckless people with unrealistic dreams of get-rich-quick schemes, as they would be the ones who would think they could pay it back. This would reduce the amount available to be lent for a more productive use. He thinks interest rates should not be set too low either, as then people would not lend their money out, and it is important that capital is available to be lent at interest as it is needed for investment and growth. Join us next time when we will be looking at different forms of trade. If you have enjoyed this video and found it useful, please check out the other videos we have made in this series. Like this one, leave a comment and subscribe to the channel. Doing so will help us grow. Thank you.